I was listening to Megan Thee Stallion before I start this video, so I apologize. Anyways, so today I'm going to be doing did these books pass the vibe check, and these are all going to be books that were my anticipated reads of 2020. I got this idea because I was watching one of Haley and Bookland's Vlogmas videos, and I think in the video she was literally just talking about popular books that came out this year, and I was like, it would be so fun to talk about my anticipated book, reflecting on the books that came out, I anticipated and I read. So I think I'm going to be trying to do this video every single year. Earlier this year I didn't do an anticipated reads, but I will be doing one for next year, and I'll have this video planned out a lot better next year. This is my first time doing it, but I'm so excited for you guys to hear how I feel about my anticipated reads. So I'm gonna go and do the ones that are, I have to put pictures in because I'm lazy and I want to do all of those first to get them out of the way. Okay, so the first book I'm going to be talking about is The Hunter by LJ Shen. So I've read LJ Shen before. I've read Vicious by LJ Shen. It was like a 4-star read. I read the rest of the series. They were like 3-star, 2 stars. And then I read her other book. It was like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and that was like a 3-star. I kind of have this issue with LJ Shen where her books become really, really repetitive. And I think the Sinners of Saint, whatever that one was called, the Vicious ones, I think that those just became a lot repetitive, and I just happened to read another book that she was writing around the same time. But I don't know why I was so hyped for The Hunter, but I read it and I really liked it. It has some characters from All Saints High or Sinners of Saints, whichever one follows the kids. I haven't read the kids books. I really don't care to be honest. But this one follows Hunter, who is the best friends of 2 of the boys who are like the kids of the Sinners, Saints, or whatever. This one was pretty good. It follows this bad boy who, he's a player. I used to love player stories on Wattpad, and player stories just aren't that popular like in actual books. So to get like a player story, I was so hyped. I cannot lie. So it was about a player, and he ends up getting in this scandal, and he has this sex tape, and his dad is like, no, like, I'm sick of you, you have to go live, and I think it's like Texas, Connecticut, somewhere. He has to go live somewhere, and he has to live with this girl. If he can convince this girl that she can live with him, it's kind of like a sponsor kind of thing where she just makes sure he doesn't, you know, do any drugs, doesn't have any sex, like anything like that. And she absolutely hates him. They know each other because their parents are both really, really rich, and like, I guess rich people all stay in the scene together. My broke ass don't know. So she's like they live in an apartment together, and it's enemies to lovers. He's a player, and it was just so good, and I liked it, and it wasn't as repetitive as any other LJ Shen books, so happy for that. The next book I have is The Shadows Between Us. This was a 2 out of 5 stars. This book was just about this girl who has to go and seduce the king so that she can marry him, and she's gonna like take over the throne. But I hated it because this character, she's supposed to be like this bad bitch who does whatever she wants, but she just wasn't giving me that. And the book started off with her telling us that she killed her boyfriend, and I think it would have been so good if the book started off with just being like, I dragged his body through the dirt, and something like that, where it's like showing us that she killed her boyfriend instead of being like, I just killed my boyfriend. Like, okay, good for you, girl, and what do you want, a cookie? The book gave off trying too hard to be a bad bitch versus actually being a bad one. I just feel like the author was kept trying to tell us that she was one, and I wasn't with it. Trying to get a good camera angle is so hard for me. So the next book I have is The Worst Best Man. I do own this book, but I did not pick it up when I was at my romance shelf, and I'm not getting up to pick it up, so I will be editing the picture in. But I got The Worst Best Man, and this book was like a 4-star. I think this book was just about this girl who was supposed to get married, and then her husband runs off at the wedding, and she thinks it's the brother's fault, the brother of the husband. Years go by, not years, probably like a year, a few months, something like that, not too long into the future goes by, and she ends up having to work with both of the brothers again on a wedding, because she is what is the person that does the weddings? I don't know, the person who organizes the weddings, and then they're staying at the family's hotel that his family owns. So she ends up falling in love with the brother of the groom, and the guy who falls in love with her is the best man. That's why it's called The Worst Best Man. I really, really liked this book, but it was just something missing. These smut scenes just were a miss for me. Like, they just were not it. This isn't an issue I had, but if I got left at the altar, I would not be going anywhere near weddings. I would not be working for one. I would despise weddings, but that's just me. The main character was kind of bland, But overall, I liked the romance. They had a shared bed scene, so I really ate that up. It just wasn't like the best romance that came out this year, you know? And then I have Love Her or Lose Her, which this was, I also own this book, but once again I did not grab it when I got up, so it's not getting grabbed now. I have Love Her or Lose Her. I actually read, this was like the first book I read in 2020, and it was sent to me by the publishers, which I so much appreciate because I loved Fix Her Up. Personally, I liked Love Her or Lose Her. I also read the second book, which was Tools of Engagement, which I don't know why I didn't put this on this list, but I read Tools of Engagement too, and I was also a 4-star, so I'll just talk about Tools of Engagement after Love Her or Lose Her. But Love Her or Lose Her I really liked. It follows a couple, I forgot what their, because in Fix Her Up, the main girl character starts this whole league, and it's called like the Justice League or something like that. It's like a female like girl thing, you know, keep women empowered, you know. The second book followed the best friend of the main character in the first book. This one follows, I forget the characters, sorry, even though I think it was Rosie and Dom. I think it was Rosie and Dom, and they are a married couple. They have been married forever. They were high school lovers, and then he ends up going off to the military, and when he comes back, he's just not treating her the same anymore, and she just gets sick of it. So she's like, yo, like, you're either gonna start loving me how you used to, or we're gonna get a divorce. And so she moves out of the house, and they go to couples therapy, and it's a second chance romance. But I personally really liked it. I don't really like second chance romance. I like second chance romances, but I don't at the same time. It really just depends on how it's written, to be honest. So I personally really liked it. The characters were Afro-Latinx, and I personally enjoyed the book because I know a lot of people's issue with the book was that they didn't act black enough. It was written by a white author. I like reading books where the characters can just be black and like it's not mentioned that they're black, and like they still did black things in the book. So I don't really understand why people felt like it wasn't black enough. Like, I don't know what y'all wanted the characters to do. Like, sometimes characters can just be black and it just be okay. Like, I don't know why people hated it. That was the reason why people hated it, and I don't get it, and I don't care to get it because I ate the book up, so it doesn't matter. And then I read Tools of Engagement. I actually read this one this month, so it'll be my wrap up. But this follows the sister of the main character in Fix Her Up, also the best friend of the main character in Love Her or Lose Her, a part of the Justice League. And in Love Her or Lose Her, you see this romance between this character Wes and Bethany, which is the same character. So in Love Her or Lose Her, you see this romance like cooking up, and you're like, ooh, I love that. I love when I can see romances cooking up in like a book before it, and you just, you know, you just pick up where you left off. So that's literally what happened. So you can see this romance happening, and then, you know, you read the next book and it starts off where it picked off. So they're basically enemies to lovers. She doesn't like him because it's not really enemies to lovers. She just doesn't like him because he tried to hit on her in front of her brother, and he's just a man. So I feel like whenever in like these romances, the girl has a reason to hate the guy, and the guy just does it to like rile her up. And so I liked it, but I felt like they fell in love like too fast. Like, not too fast, but like it wasn't anything to indicate them falling in love. Like, it was like they were in love, and then they were like hating each other, and then they were like in love. Like, it wasn't like a smooth transaction in it. So it was still pretty good. I listened to the audiobook, and it was something about the audiobook. I just can't listen to some audiobooks, and I was listening to this at work, boy. That was one time I was folding the clothes and a sweat scene came on, and I literally was just like. So I have another romance, and that is Beauties of Each Other. I remember I was on the fence about this when I first heard about it, because I was confused about the synopsis, but I couldn't wait because enemies to lovers. So basically this book is about a couple who is about to get married, and they are kind of falling off. Like, they aren't having that romance anymore. So this is also a second chance romance, which I said second chance romances are good if they're written right. About to get married, and they're falling off, so they kind of have this thing where whoever cancels first has to pay for it. They're kind of trying to get the other person to pay for it. I give this book 4 to 5 stars. I really loved it. I reread it already. I didn't annotate it. I don't know why, but I loved it. I thought this book was so funny. Like, he was so mean to her, and I just thought it was so funny. Like, there's this scene where she gets her bangs cut, and he basically tells her that she has a big forehead, and I just thought it was hilarious. Like, it was cute, it was funny, and good romances. You got to see like how they fell in love with each other. It wasn't like enemies to lovers all from the jump, and I just thought like an enemies to lovers second chance from a couple that's already engaged was just such a good idea. And the author is coming up with another book idea, and it's supposed to be like a Sunshine X Grumpy character. It's coming out in 2021, so you better believe that's already on my anticipated list. Like, it's already there. So the next book we have is Cemetery Boys, and this book was 5 out of 5 stars. It was so amazing. I read it on Halloween, the day before Halloween, for Halloween, and it was the best idea I had. Like, it was so good. I read it at work in one sitting. It follows Yadriel, who is a brujo, and he is trans, and he basically wants to prove to his family that he is a real brujo, because in the magic that they have, you get a certain kind of magic if you're a brujo, and he just wants to prove that he is a real brujo. So he accidentally discovers that this bad boy from his school is actually dead, and they're trying to figure out who killed him, because his cousin also came up dead, and so they kind of think that like something is connecting them two. And oh my gosh, I love the romance. The bad boy in this book was just so funny, and like it brought me back to like the bad boys I used to read on Wattpad. Like, the bad boys in the contemporary books that I've read, like, they aren't really bad boys for real, but he is such a bad boy. He's so funny. He always says the funniest stuff. Their relationship was so great. I really loved how Yadriel could talk to him about being trans. The next anticipated read I have is Snotgirl Volume 3. I am obsessed with Snotgirl. If you did not know, this is my favorite graphic novel next to Gotham Academy, but that was canceled. So, but yeah, this is, I basically, okay, when people read Snotgirl, you either give it a 5-star or a 1-star. I personally like Snotgirl because the main character, Charlotte, is such a terrible person that I kind of relate to her. It's not saying that I'm a terrible person, but I just love how bad of a person she is and how selfish she is. And the art, like, come on now, let's be real. The art. And my favorite thing about Snotgirl is that it's so weird and nobody knows what's going on. Like, nobody knows what's happening. Like, if you just look up Snotgirl, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I don't understand what just happened. But 5 stars, literally it. And I love it. And I love, I'm so obsessed with the art. So I get this 5 out of 5 stars. It was so, it's just so weird. Like, you don't know what's going on, but I like that. Like, I don't care that it's weird, you know? I ate it up. It's my favorite graphic novel. And so next on my most anticipated reads is, I gotta talk about these two at the same time because they dropped the same day. Chain of Gold and Crescent City. I feel like when these books dropped, there was I felt this shift in the earth when these two books dropped on the same day. Like, I felt like we couldn't handle these two authors on the same day, and I felt it. I felt the shift in the earth. So basically, I'm gonna talk about Chain of Gold first because I love Chain of Gold. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I had read all of the Shadowhunter Chronicles in February for the very first time. I read all of them to prepare for this book, and I loved it. This follows the kids of the characters in the Inferno Devices. I honestly suggest reading the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles before you get to this one. You could just go from the Inferno Devices to Chain of Gold, but there are some characters that are in Chain of Gold that are also in the Dark Artifices, which is also my favorite trilogy so far. And it's spoilers, but there's a character that shows up that like you low-key won't notice unless you have read it. If you want to talk about some things in the comments, but make sure you mark them as spoilers and what they're spoilers for beforehand. I love Cordelia. I love Alistair. I love the Merry Thieves. I love every character in this book. One thing I liked about this book, which I don't think Cassandra Clay did this on purpose, but you can create any ship out of thin air and I'll ship it. Any characters in this book, except like obviously the siblings, that's too far for me, but any ship in this book and I will ship it. That's how good this freaking book was. Like, everybody has so much chemistry, and I really love that Cassandra Clare finally wrote about a person of color. I remember being so happy seeing a character. Like, look at this art. Look at her. And I also have notes in here. Yes, I have notes of who's kids, which that helped me out a lot because. And then we have Crescent City, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This behemoth of a book took me so long to read. I was so hyped for it. I thought that this book was okay. This book follows, what's the bitch's name? This book follows Bryce. Something tragic happens to her in the beginning of the book. Don't look up the synopsis. The synopsis is a huge spoiler. Something tragic happens in the book, and so she has to figure out how to fix the thing that happened and how to find out what the truth about what really happens. And she has to work with Hunt, who is an angel, and I thought it was good. Bryce, everyone says that Bryce is such a bad bitch. I'm like, yeah, but it's just like, I don't really care. It's just like, she's a baddie, but not baddie enough for me, you know? It's something about Bryce that I I just don't mess with it. But I really love this book because it's a new adult or adult, deals with like her like getting drunk and doing drugs and things that new adults do. I know this caused a lot of controversy on Twitter. There was a whole debate on whether these kind of things should be included in new adults, and I personally think that it should, because that's what new adults do. Like, I'm old enough to drink, like I'm gonna go out and get drunk, like why wouldn't I? This is what happens, like this is what we do. I would rather have it in like things for new adults than things in high school, like Euphoria. I don't know, makes more sense to me. And like these things happen, like just because you don't do them and you have a feeling against them doesn't mean that people don't do them and that is not realistic. So I personally love that she wrote that in her book. I thought it was so realistic. Bryce going out to the clubs, all this stuff. I was like, yeah girl, there's a lot of diversity. Sarah J Maas really tried with this book and I could see that, but I just thought that I was so bored. It was 900 pages of nothing in my personal opinion, but I didn't hate it. Like, I don't hate this book. Like, I gave it 3 stars. There were things that I really enjoyed, but I was so bored out of my mind. But I'm really excited for the second book. So the next book on this list is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. And I love Get a Life, Chloe Brown, as we know, and I have the arc of actor age Eve Brown. I just love the Brown sisters and I love these books. Take a Hint, Dani Brown is about Dani, who is bi and she works at this college, and Zaf, who is a security guard, and one day he saves her life and it's caught on video and everyone thinks that they're dating, so they kind of fake date to help out his business and just because, you know, fame reasons, and they end up like falling in love. And y'all know I love fake dating and enemies to lovers. Oh, my camera had me inverted. I said, oh no. I don't even remember what I was saying because my camera overheated. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Daily Education. So I had Daily Education in my anticipated want to read because it's dark academia. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't care. Came out in October. I read it. 5 stars. One of my favorite books I've read this year. I absolutely obsessed with this. This book is... somebody in their video said that this book, like, it's not character driven. It is not plot driven, but it's setting driven, and I 100% agree. I am so obsessed with this book. So it follows this main character named Elle, and she is in this school where there are no teachers, there are no holidays, you kind of have to learn things by yourself, there are monsters everywhere, you literally have to travel in packs because these monsters will get you. You have to watch out for other students because they could be evil. And so Orion keeps saving, Orion is a male character, he keeps saving Elle's life, and she's getting mad every time because he's kind of doing it as like to one up her. And so she's getting mad. She's like, I have to kill this man. And I just love this book so much. It was enemies to lovers, excellent. Elle is one of my favorite book baddies so far. She's so smart and so funny. She's also half Indian, half English, so she's a person of color, and I just really liked this book, and I can't wait to read more from Naomi Novik. The next book I have is Kingdom of the Wicked, and I was anticipating, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like I need this book. Like, I'm kind of not really like that with any book I'm anticipating. Like, I'm just like, yeah, like I can't wait to read it. Like, oh my gosh. Towards October, the end of October, I was anticipating this book. Like, I could not wait to read it. I read Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I loved that. I loved Hunting Prince Dracula, but the rest of the books really fell flat for me. I don't really like Carrie Maniscalco's writing. It's very bland. It's very iffy. She's not the best writer out there, and I'm really not saying that to be mean. It's just like, that's what it is. But I tell you one thing. Homegirl knows how to write banter. So I give this book 4 out of 5 stars, despite me not really liking the writing. Like, it's not that I hate the writing, I just don't love it. So don't think I like hate the writing or anything. I'm just not like, it's not anything special, you know. So when I read this book, I absolutely ate it up. This book is about basically the 7 deadly sins in like prince form, and the main character twin sister dies, so she has to work with the Prince of Hell, Wrath, to figure out what is happening to her sister. And the banter between the main character and Wrath was just so great. Okay, there are some issues I have with this book, but I was really being nice to Carrie by giving this book 4 stars. I cannot lie to y'all. Like, if I'm being 100% honest, I was really being nice to the author by giving this 4 stars because there are so many issues that I have with this book, and I 100% understand why people gave this book 2 stars, because kind of like the same thing with Stalking Jack the Ripper. Like, she just had like a very specific fan base. So if you like Stalking Jack the Ripper, you'll like this. But if you did not like Stalking Jack the Ripper, I do not suggest reading this book. You're not gonna like it at all. I personally really enjoyed it, but I am a whore for great banter, so that's why we're here. And the next book we have is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, and this book is literally what that is. Like, it's a novella, and this was like my most anticipated book of the year. This book is just short stories about Prince Cardan and how he came to hate stories, and I just love Cardan so much. And yes, this is a Barnes & Noble exclusive, because y'all know I had to get it, because you know, my collection. And it's just such pretty art in here. It has some exclusive art in the back, and it just has some like it was just so beautiful. 5 out of 5 stars. Don't really gotta touch on that. Then I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. If you want to know more of my thoughts on this book, check out my written review. I'll try to leave it in the eye up there. I don't care where it is. I'll leave it up there. I'll try. And so this book, if you don't know what this book is, it's a really hyped book. The only reason I own a copy of this book is because it's Book of the Month, and the Book of the Month copy is really pretty. If it wasn't for Book of the Month, I would not have a copy of this book. This book is about a girl named Addie LaRue who makes a deal with the devil to live for the rest of her life. But the deal is that every person she comes across will forget her until she comes across somebody who does not forget her. So I did really like the writing in the book. I thought that it was really beautiful, but I felt that the book was too slow at some points, and I also felt like I was tricked into believing that this book was about a romance between the devil and Addie LaRue, when it really was not that at all. And at the end, there's something that happens at the end that like I can't really talk about because it would be spoilers, but I talk about it in my review. I did not enjoy this book. The last book I have is Home Before Dark, and I wasn't really anticipating this list. It was just on my list. I was looking at my list and I was like, why is this on here? Like, before this book came out, there wasn't any Riley Sager books that I gave at least even 3 stars to. Like, Lock Every Door just barely got 3 stars for me. So when I was looking at this, I was like, why did I put this on this list? This book actually ended up being 4 stars. I kind of have a rocky relationship with Riley Sager. I gave The Last Time I Lied 2 stars. Did not read The Final Girl because I picked up the book, guessed the killer, watched the review, got the killer right, and was like, well, what's the point of reading it? Lock Every Door, I liked it, but I didn't like it enough. And then this one I gave 4 stars to. So I'm really hoping that the next Riley Sager book is a 5-star. I've kept all of his books so far, except the final girls. I have to rebuy that. I think I am gonna read it still. This book is low-key, like, I always tell people that this is kind of like The Haunting of Hill House up until a certain point, and then you're kind of like, shit, this book is actually nothing like The Haunting of Hill House. So it follows this girl and her mom and dad who move her into this house. She has some experiences in it, but she doesn't really remember the experiences that she had in this house. And then she gets older and her dad writes this book about the things that happened, and she just always grew up thinking they were lies, and her dad passes away and leaves her the house. So she decides to go to the house for herself to check and see if the things that her dad wrote were true, and to see if her dad was a liar, because she basically grew up her entire life thinking that her dad was a liar. And I personally really like this book. There was a plot twist. It was 2 plot twists at the end, and the plot twist before the final plot twist just got me. I was like, oh, I'm a sucker for a plot twist, y'all. I'm a sucker for plot twists, okay? So once I got to that plot twist, I was like, oh, that was really good. I didn't see that coming. And then we got to the last plot twist, and I hated the last plot twist. I didn't hate it, but I was like, low-key, Riley, you could have left it at the first one, and I would have given this book 5 stars. But it was okay, but I don't like regret reading it or anything, and I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun, and I cannot wait for Riley Sager's next book. He's in my 2021 anticipated read, so when I do this video next year, I won't look back and be like, Mina, why would you put that there, you know? So there's that. And there are a lot of books that came out this year that weren't on my anticipated list that I ended up reading that I love, like From Brilliant Ash. And so stay tuned for my best books of 2020 video. I'm going to be doing like best books, worst books, anticipated reads. I'm going to be doing all of those things in January. So I hope that you like this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I don't have an emoji for you guys, so comment any emoji you want, and I'll see you guys in the next video.